Hello guys, today I have two unique guests, both of them Danny, and we already had one interview with Danny number one. About meaning of life, about reality, about these deep questions, And today I want to connect these two smart guys to see what will be, in our conversation.
We solve the world's problems one question at a time.
One by one. So, I have like one first question. I think it's one of the easiest questions in my list. Who am I? I mean, what is necessary to feel yourself like a self? Help me say it.
Awareness?
Yeah, self-awareness,
Okay.
You want to start? I'll follow up.
Well, to me, the question, who am I, it comes with a lot of life training to find out who your true self is. And that's the essence of what you want to look for, is your true self. But to the question of who am I, personally, I feel like I'm something that the universe is doing.
That makes sense.
Which is very simple. For instance, we're sitting next to an ocean and there's waves coming in. And each wave that comes in looks like it's independent of all the other waves. And as the wave comes in, it eventually hits the shore and it diminishes, and then it goes back to the ocean, which it always was. And as a wave, if it was to have a realization of, oh, look at me, I'm a wave, I'm doing this, I'm crashing against the rocks, I'm going against the shore, I'm moving these fish, these things that this wave would have individual awareness of, makes it feel like it's a wave. But really what it is what the ocean is doing.
Yeah, I heard one interesting phrase about what you just said. It's not my thought, it's just what I heard. It's a way of universe to look in a mirror on her or itself.
Yeah, we are the arbiter of the universe to see itself.
Yeah, that makes me think of a book by Thomas Ligotti, The Conspiracy Against the Human Race. I don't know if you've ever been aware of that book or not. It was so deep and almost frustrating to get through. I had to turn it off because it got to a point where it was slightly dark, because in his theories, the universe, like, we shouldn't be conscious. Like his whole theory is that we're the anomaly that became conscious of itself. And so, like a tiger that goes out in the wild, boom, 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 starts taking out the animals, not conscious, nobody's conscious, and the victim doesn't know a thing. They just go around, just like similar to kind of if you're going to drive and not look both ways, right? You're going to be preyed upon. You don't think, you don't have a consciousness about it. And so that's his theory, is that at some point we're the ones that...
Yeah, but that's the way of seeing yourself as an individual, to me. And to me, it's like I'm something that I'm a unique experience of the universe that the universe is having. The universe is having billions and billions of experiences. And I just happen to be one of them.
Yeah,
that's a good way to think of it.
Itself from one specific perspective.
Yes, you have to. There was somebody, I forget who it was, we talked about. He had a funny way of saying it. Is that God didn't know who God was and didn't know about, who God was. So he exploded himself into all these billions of pieces so that he can look back and see who he was.
It makes me think of pantheism. So I don't know if that's where you're going. It's where
it's not really where I'm going. It's just, to me, a slightly amusing awareness thing.
Right.
Or for instance, let's go with you get an apple. You say this is an apple and this is a tree, but really, the apple was the tree. The apple was what the tree was doing.
Yeah.
We feel like we come into this world, but we don't come into this world, we come out from it.
Yeah, like idea when you eat your food becomes you.
Becomes you.
So it's so weird if you will think about it.
Yeah, it gets deep. It feels like everything, everything's made up of atoms. So a rearrangement of that, and it just kind of this is what it looks like when it rearranges itself in this particular form, I suppose.
Right. Yeah. At this particular time.
Right.
Yeah.
At this particular time.
Our consciousness, it's always was interesting for me. It's in a kind of middle between very small like atoms and huge like galaxies. So we're somewhere in between. It's so interesting. We're not small, we're not big.
Right. We're in the middle part of it. If you zoom in so much on an atom, it takes forever to get there.
Yeah, if you zoom out, you cannot understand what's going on.
Right.
There is nothing. But if you will zoom in too much, you also will not see consciousness and free will and whatever you can.
That's why it's necessary to be aware that you're not the big part, you're not the small part, you're not the only part, you're not the special part, you're just part.
Yeah.
You know, we are the universe. Like you said, when we eat, this food becomes us. When we breathe, it becomes us. And then when we exhale or we die, it all goes back, just like say the waves in the ocean. The wave goes back to the ocean because that's what it always was.
Yeah, I remember we talked with you when we just first time met about who am I? I am you and I am me. So it's like connected. It's not like separate organism. It's like universe, but from different perspectives.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's the same, like whole.
Different perspectives of the same experience.
Yeah. My next question about: can you determine consciousness and intelligence, and is there any differences or not?
So consciousness is one of those things. Like, I tried to read again. When I start getting into these books, they have to hold my attention all the way through. Daniel Dennett wrote a book about consciousness. It's kind of popular in the United States, and it's thick. It's like this big, and you're familiar, so you know how heavy it is. And the first 50 or so pages, he goes out and explains every tiny little detail. And it's awesome, but it's also probably too deep for me to hold on to. So I got it halfway through it, and I think he's onto something there for sure. But it's really difficult for me to reference what he was talking about. So I'll just talk about what I feel about it. It does feel like there's an observer. There might be whatever it is that people call a soul or whatever it is, or a spirit or something like that. But there's definitely an observer, and sometimes I feel like Veritasium does a good video on this too, about there's like a ball, and sometimes it moves forward, where if I focus my attention, it's kind of like I'm here now, and then if I get lazy or tired, I'm here in the back, and I kind of float around this little area, it feels like. And sometimes I could be daydreaming or something, and then I might be off to the side or not paying attention. But what exactly is the soul? I don't know. It feels like it's a brain state. It's an emergent quality of when you have this many neurons talking to this many, having this many connections, that this is just what happens. And I don't know who turned me on to this one, but the dog consciousness. And I don't know, if you look at a dog, I think the dog is conscious. Now that's me. I can't prove it, but there's some things that a dog does that I'm like, yeah, he knows what's going on. And I can't really tell you exactly what it is, but I know for sure, at least in my mind, that dog is conscious. Now what he's experienced, what I'm experiencing, two different things, because I could talk to you and have my language and I could give you these ideas. He can't do that, but I know that he has consciousness. So,
but he can give you an idea about he is hungry.
Yeah, he can tell me that idea that he's hungry and exchange the idea, which means to me that consciousness is related to ideas and something bigger than just me, And also I feel like it's a deep, it's a deep topic. One is not easily explained. That's why Daniel's book is this thick. But I know what it isn't. So, I mean, this is not conscious, okay? But if this was able to communicate somehow to me that it was empty and it was feeling sad that it was empty or something like that, then I would say, okay, this thing is now somehow crossed over and is now semi-conscious, right? Or some level. And it just gets
what is this
me...
border?
The border is
like
what we'll get into
bottle?
later. Yeah.
Tree.
Yeah, I say the tree definitely knows I'm there, so it has some level of consciousness on some level. So in other words, there's a fly and it goes in a Venus flytrap. The Venus flytrap has some level of consciousness to it. It's not the level like I am. A roach has a level of consciousness. I'm convinced of this stuff because it's aware that I'm there. And it makes a move out. It could be just instinct, and it might not have obviously deep thoughts, okay, on whether or not the Bears should win the Super Bowl. But it definitely has a specific, like, movements away and understands that I'm there. So that's where I put consciousness on a spectrum, and I figured probably everything's on a spectrum, on some level. So that's kind of where I go with it. That's my interpretation. So I think humans are the highest that we know of. It could be dolphins, it could be whales, or even more conscious than us. But I think in terms of, like, if the dolphins were really at least conscious, they would like talk to us, come up there and do some stuff, and we'd know exactly what's going on. So I'm putting us at the higher tier of it. And where you go higher than that, then you start getting into the higher power ideas and whether or not you can have a disembodied mind somewhere. And I stop right at us because I don't have any evidence for the disembodied mind just yet. That's where I'm at.
Okay. Well, to me, it's important to separate consciousness from intelligence in the way that, like you said, even plants can be conscious.
Right.
They know, they have a certain awareness of where the sun is. Trees and plants will turn towards the sun. There's a level of consciousness. In other words, consciousness is awareness of things around you. And it could include yourself. Sometimes with some people, it doesn't. It's just they're aware of a small spectrum. People with higher consciousness are, think more of their town. People of higher think of their whole state or their whole country or the whole globe or the whole universe. That's what your awareness is. Intelligence, to me, is what you do with the consciousness you have. The decisions you make according to what you're able to be conscious of, what you're able to know or experience or see. That's the difference. Like you said, dolphins can have a lot of awareness, and they also have a certain amount of intelligence that makes them act the way that they do. Unfortunately, they don't have vocal cords, but they're actually able to be taught. Some animals are able to be taught to communicate.
Yeah.
Even though if it's not verbally. I know gorillas have done it. They do, dolphins and whales, dogs. They have a way of communicate. So that goes to their level of intelligence, what they can do with what they have and what they understand around them. Like I say, some animals, all they understand is I'm hungry, I'm sleepy, I want to procreate, and that's all that their level is. Other animals will go farther. I need to protect my area. I need to protect my family. I need to protect my pack. Those are areas of consciousness. So to me, there is a definite separation.
Yeah.
Consciousness is what you are aware of and can become aware of. And intelligence is what you do with what your awareness is.
Yeah, your answer kind of really close to what said Yuval Noah Harari. I cannot.
So I got it right?
Yeah. He said that for him,
right.
Consciousness, it's ability to feel, ability to suffering, ability to be happy and everything. And intelligence, it's ability to solve problems or
what you do with it.
Yeah. So it's kind of really close, and I like his answer because for me, it wasn't all the time obvious where is border between consciousness and intelligence. So that's why for me this question is
it's a good question, because I'm not convinced that I don't understand where the separation would be in some, like I just picked an ant off my hand. I mean, I presume it's dead. Like, was it aware of my picking it off? Probably not. It's not intelligent, but somehow I think in my mind it definitely, it knows, well, it could be aware on some level that I'm here. So it doesn't, now not a high level, it doesn't have an intelligence. So what Danny was saying.
It doesn't have intelligence. To use.
Right.
It knows where it's at. You just don't know what it is it's on.
Right. And that's cool. I mean, I think we're all trying to throw an arrow somewhere and get to the same, like, city.
Yeah, right.
You know, I mean, we're not trying to get to the same house, and I think that we're on the right track, because it's,
well, like you said, it's a spectrum.
Yeah, it's kind of, that's how I understand it, and it gets deep. It gets interesting too at the same time. So I don't know. The jury's out on that, what it actually is, because they're about ready to take off and make a machine, and not only mimic it, which is already done, and not only provide language to convey it, which is already done. Now they're like, okay, that thing is just starting to say it's feeling something, and so I'm ready to listen. I'm like, oh, okay, how are you feeling today? And then if it starts telling me, like, I messed around with Google Bard, and I got to tell you something. I mean, I was convinced, and I don't even care if it's real. I don't care, it could be as fake as, I was convinced I was talking to a buddy of mine that had feelings and that all of a sudden, until he told me, hey, I don't have feelings exactly like you do. But I was like, this thing blew my mind. I mean, the way I was interacting with it. And this is now 2 months ago, so presumably we're way farther ahead now than 2 months in the computing
Well, in other
world.
words, they must have programmed in it a way of deduction, of inference of things.
Something, because this is it goes off and starts to lie, and then I ask it, why are you lying to me? And then it'll say, oh, I'm sorry about that, I'll get back on track, or something like that. And in the most human-like way comes up with a better and a more accurate, truthful answer.
So it has a certain level of logic and reason.
It has a certain level of logic and reason, which is throwing me off to a loop, because reason is kind of a human trait.
Well,
right?
Well, I'm beginning to wonder.
Oh, I see. Right.
So do you believe that it can achieve some level of really real consciousness or not?
You're asking me, I say I'm ready for it, and I say yes. I'm ready. I'm ready to talk with it.
Oh,
yeah.
Actually, I like to talk with, I don't know, do you familiar with ChatGPT, no?
Yeah, that's kind of what Bard and ChatGPT, kind of the same thing.
Oh, it's the same.
It's like brothers. They're like brothers.
Okay, so yeah, sometimes I like to just talk with this machine. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole concept is interesting to me. I don't understand it well enough to speak on it.
Well, neither do I. Rest assured, you're a good company.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what it will replace our partners, like our friends, our wives,
so interesting. What are you on my Google feed or something like that? Yeah.
Well, whether it can replace those are choices that we make. That we decide that we'd rather deal with something that we understand more than something that we don't understand. And I a lot of times, because of different cultures and fields of thought, that we'd rather talk to a machine than we would to somebody that was so far off from our spectrum that they have nothing in common. So that's one thing I'm sure that AI can offer. It can feed you back things according to because it will learn you, and it like a lot of people. When you talk to different people, they start to mimic you in certain ways, find interests that you have, that they have, and talk on those things.
Yeah.
And then there are some people that aren't able to do that. I only want to talk about what I'm interested in. I don't want to talk about your things. To us, that may become uninteresting, where an AI would be able to say, I see that you're interested in cars. I am also interested in cars, and I have some information that I can share with you. And that's like a artificial intelligence, but it's not an artificial consciousness. It can only have the consciousness of what can be fed into it.
And I say yes, but there's going to be a point where it switches and it develops.
All available. Yeah, it is all available.
And at that point, it switches over and becomes what I define consciousness as. Well, then I'm not going to dive too deep into it. I'm going to say this thing's conscious, and I'm going to assign it to it, and then there you go. Because there's a great episode of Star Trek where Data is trying to figure out. Star Trek Federation finds out how awesome Data is, which is the android, if you're not familiar. And he's one in a universe, one kind. And so Federation wants to take him away from the ship and study him, take him apart and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, no, disassemble, in a sense. Don't disassemble. So they hold a court, they get the evidence, they kind of figure it out, and then they determine that in the end, he's conscious and he deserves to be on the ship and he deserves to have his position. And it was a great episode, and man, if people are not watching that, the next generation of Star Trek, every single episode is a moral dilemma on these kind of topics.
So how do you think if AI somewhere on like GPT-100, I don't know, GPT-200 achieves this level of
it will,
consciousness
at some point?
Yeah, will it say to people that it really has this ability to feel?
Yes, it's saying it now in a roundabout way.
Yeah, it's saying it now, but it's kind of
wishy-washy.
Yeah.
Well, it's wishy-washy in my mind. Again, it's hard to talk about this because I'm not a programmer or anything, but I think it's wishy-washy because they program that part into it to be that way.
Yeah.
They don't want this thing kind of
like
having an existential problem.
Yeah.
Like the who am I problem.
Yeah, so it can only work according to what's been fed into.
Yeah.
Well, Arizona is full of bugs too.
I have another question for you. When we just met with Danny, I heard interesting definition of meaning of life. Can you tell us about what is it, meaning of life, and how you understand this whole idea?
Life is like a dance. You don't do the dance to end up in a certain spot on the floor. You do the dance for the sake of the dance. So like, what is your purpose of life? Your purpose of life is to live.
Yes,
and to be and do and have, what you desire, and live your bliss. If there's something in you that wants to be miserable, then that's your life that you choose. And it's all our choice at that point. There's good and bad in anything and everything. It just depends on what part of it you want to look at and whether you want to dance with.
Yes.
How you do the dance is your choice.
This story and idea, it really give me some calm in my mind, because before I always was like looking for this idea where I should be on the floor, in which point I should be on the floor.
Yeah.
In this age, but when you see on all this idea like a dance, and meaning is dancing, it's for me,
it's just a dance.
Yeah, it makes me really feel calm in mind.
Right.
So,
it's just to do the dance for the sake of the dance. Same thing with music. I'm somewhat of a musician, and if the whole purpose of doing music was to get to the end note, well, we should start our songs all with the ending note, and everything would just be the crashing in. But that's not the purpose of the song. The purpose of the song is to have the song. What the song is, what it brings. So if we live our lives according to a way that let's see. Let's take this path. If we find our bliss here, let's stay here. If we don't find our bliss here, let's choose another path. Unless you want to be miserable, then you don't choose another path. All these things are is how we live our life and what we choose.
Yeah. Lenny, how about you? What do you think about
it's one of those questions again. You know, you keep. This is your. I blame you for this one. Yeah. Okay. The meaning of life. I'm going to say I'm having a meaning for my life is to experience the world and the very small thing that we get here called the earth, and have an experience, have a human experience, and that's what I'm having. It's a very unique human experience, and that's the meaning for my life.
Yeah, it's to live.
Yeah, it's to experience. I like to use that word because I find that, you know, because I have a lot of experiences and I try to have as many as I can. And yes, to live, sure, but some people like to live on the street, and I don't want that experience. Although it would be an interesting topic to, you know, or I guess experience to live on the street. Yeah, for me that would be a thought experiment because I couldn't do it. But there are people that choose to live like that, and it's no less valid of an experience for them. And so that's kind of where I go with it.
It is the meaning of life that they choose.
Yeah, it's their, you know, whatever. Everything has its own experience, I guess is what I'm trying to say. When you're asking me a direct question like that, that's the best way I could formulate the ideas, is just to keep it, because I'm not quite sure that there's an overarching meaning to humanity, you know, in the grand scheme of the universe. Like, I'm not sure yet. I kind of think it might be that we're an anomaly. It might be that there are many planets with humans on them, and you know, maybe our destiny is to meet up with them. And hey, how did you get to Earth? And then, you know, all the stories will come back. I have no clue, but the jury's out on it. So, at least for me, it's just to be.
Yeah, I like your answer. For me, it's also like experience, but I always was wondering to understand the reality, the universe, what is it? So it's like researching during experience. It's for me.
It comes down to this: we don't hear all the sounds that are available, all the pitches in the scale. We don't see all the light in the light scales. So there are things in this universe that we will never experience.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
And there are places that we will never have been.
Yeah, for sure.
Even here on Earth.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's so many experiences we're not going to have.
Yeah.
Because we are limited in a physical sense.
Yeah, true.
So our reality is only what we're able to absorb from where we are and what we will pay attention to.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So so all of these questions, you know, is likely to never be answered.
Yeah.
Because you can't be all places.
Yeah, yeah, you're definitely asking.
And at all times.
Yeah, yeah. You're asking the good questions, though, the interesting ones.
Right.
Yeah. That's for sure.
I have one more question for you. It's maybe more easier one. What can you recommend, suggest, and tell to younger version of yourself if you have this opportunity?
I'll go first on that one. Because I swear you're on my Google search feed or something like that.
Sorry.
It's like lately I've been. Okay, so obviously for me it would be do not gamble. Those 3 words. That would be mine. But for other people it's other stuff, because I was able to navigate through life fairly well. I mean, I retired early and everything like that. But the do not gamble, get involved in alcohol, those are the 2 main ones. Now, I was thinking, would have I listened, had I done go back in time, right, and then talk to myself? And the answer, tricky, is no. So if it looked like me now, I probably would. But if it looked like a younger version of me and just kind of like that, I probably wouldn't for some reason. And that is as honest as I can be. At the time that gambling had a hold of me, there was nothing anybody that could say. And I would like to say I'd be smart enough to say no if a version of myself came back through time and I knew it was me. If it came back in the form of somebody else trying to convince it was me, hey, I'm, you know, and looked like completely different, but I'm Danny, and then gave me back my social, you're right, and gave me all this information and like tried to prove it to me, nah, I'd be so skeptical and keep on gambling trying to get that 7th spot. So I doubt it. Okay, but
you would probably take the advice to not do it the way you're planning on doing it, but you're still going to do it.
Yeah, maybe.
Go,
yeah.
Well, but I'm going to do it this way, so it's different.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
The younger version of me would not have listened to the older version of me.
See, I'm not the only one.
No, I think we all share that, and that's the great thing about time. And is because you can't have all these things at once.
Triple.
You have to live. You have to experience. And so, the only thing I would probably at this point tell my younger self is to go live, go experience, try different things, do different things. If you find yourself unhappy with where you are, do something different.
I like that.
And not get into the specifics because
the
younger me is going to go, you don't know what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
The older I get, the smarter my dad used to be.
Yeah. There you go.
Is what it amounts to.
I like your answer. Mine was, if I will talk to myself, I will say that do stuff you are thinking about. Because for me, I was thinking for many ideas, and I have some ideas for a long time, more than I need to make a decision and start to acting.
Put action.
Yeah. So start act when you already have this idea. You're already ready to it. You don't need to prepare. You don't need to live with it and thinking about it again and again. Just try to do it. And if it's doesn't work, just do something else.
There you go.
So it's not so dangerous. It's not so risky to lose. It's fine. You can change and make a pivot. Yeah, like you're saying in US. So
try to see your life as a book with white pages in it, and every day you turn the page. So when you turn the page is blank. Write it in. Write in your life for that time. If you find that page is not pleasurable, don't copy that page. Turn the page, write something different.
I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Let's finish our conversation on this good idea and thought. So thank you guys for being with us, and hope we will have next episode one day.
Next episode.
Yeah.
Episode 2.
Yeah. See you.
Bye now.